didn't even realize that you were in the house.
Well, I didn't go to the office today.
Are you ill?
I saw Macy last night.
And how did it go?
Not like I had hoped.
Did you take your own advice?
Yes.
And?
I went over there ready to commit to just about anything. All I wanted was to put my marriage back on track.
What did she say, honey?
It was more of what she didn't say, Mother. She couldn't tell me that she loved me. She just couldn't say those words. And the reason that she couldn't is because I really don't think she does love me anymore. My wife has fallen out of love with me.
So anyway, Macy, we gotta make sure Saul stays on top of all of this. We got a lot of new vendors. QC means everything. We've had a great year, and it's gonna get better, but that doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, the whole thing could be falling apart if we don't have quality control, so Macy. Are you listening to me?
Yeah. Quality control. I'm already on it.
Yeah. What's the matter, darling?
Nothing.
Oh, I think there's something, all right. Why don't you tell me what it is?
I had a visitor last night.
Who?
Thorne.
What did he want?
Well, he's coming on pretty strong lately.
And how does that make you feel?
Like he's finally giving me a little attention.
Sounds kind of bitter, darling.
Well, yes. Well, I am bitter, Mother. I didn't want this separation. I fought him tooth and nail, but no, he wanted it, so we separated. And now he thinks he can just waltz right back into my life.
And you don't want him to?
I don't want him to think that he can treat me this way. You know, there's a price that you pay when you give up on someone, and that's what he did when he left me.
Well, how did you two leave it last night?
He asked me if I loved him. I couldn't answer him, Mother. I just couldn't. I have too much resentment.
Well, the resentment is understandable, honey, but that leaves you with the big question. Do you love him, or don't you?
Now, I'm sure you're going to want to take your cars, okay? Put that in. Figure out which ones you want to take, and then I'll put them in here, okay? That one? Which one does Bridget want? Does she want maybe this one? Do you want this one? Oops, let me get the door. Now, you figure out which ones, okay? Stay here. Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad you called. I really missed you, Brooke.
Well, you are my best friend. I couldn't stay mad at you forever. Come in.
So, storming the Bastille, are we?
We leave tonight.
That was an incredible article about you in the paper.
Thank you.
The kids are going, right?
Yes, the nurse is going to bring them over in a couple of days.
So for now, it'll just be you and Ridge. The opportunity you've always wanted.
Oh, it is. It's very exciting. There's no doubt about that. To be living in Paris, opening up Forrester International.
Well, that all sounds very thrilling, but that's not what I meant. You're going to have Ridge over in Europe with you and the kids. And that is the real opportunity, isn't it?
Sandra told me you had an hour free. I needed to know how you were doing, Taylor.
There's still no change.
You and Ridge are still at an impasse?
We haven't even talked since I saw you yesterday.
What are you saying? He didn't come home?
Oh, yes, he came home and we were together all night, but nobody dared bring up the topic.
But I thought you were supposed to be leaving tonight.
Yes.
Then how could you possibly stay away from the topic?
The ball is in Ridge's court. He has a decision to make.
There's no amount of talking that will help it.
Taylor, you have very good instincts. What do you think he'll decide?
I hope that our marriage will be his priority. That's what I hope, James. But what I hope and what I suspect will happen are not always the same these days.
Do you ever expect to have children, Karen?
Funny you should ask.
Why?
Oh, Connor and I are just wrestling with that very issue.
Oh, well, if you do have kids someday, you'll understand why this time in Europe with Ridge is so important to me.
Because of your children.
When Taylor went to Scotland, Ridge saw Bridget every single day. Since she returned, he's seen her maybe once or twice a week.
And you blame Taylor for that?
No, I don't blame anybody for that. I'm just stating a fact. And I'll state another one. Bridget is a different girl when she spends time with her father. She craves his attention. So does Eric Jr.
So you just want to do what's best for your children?
Well, absolutely. And I think spending time with Ridge is undoubtedly what's best for my kids. You don't know what I go through. I mean, they adore this man. They talk about him all the time, every night. Can you blame me for coveting his time the way I do? I just want my kids to have what they need and what they so desperately want, a father.
Do you have to go all the way to Paris to do that?
I'll go to Siberia if that's what it takes. When Taylor's out of town, Eric Jr. and Bridget get Ridge's quality time. And when she's in town, they get the leftovers. I know the situation's inevitable, but I certainly don't have to like it.
So what you're telling me is that this entire trip to Paris is all about getting more quality time with Ridge for your children?
Of course not. I'm going to Europe to inaugurate Forster International. Career-wise, this is the biggest move ever. I get high just thinking about it, Karen. It gives me goosebumps. But yes, while I'm there, I'm going to make sure that Bridget gets as much attention from her father as she wants.
You sure know how to get the job done, don't you?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, let me get this straight. You've given me 2 reasons that you're going to Europe. The first is to expand Forster, and the second is so that your kids will have more quality time with Ridge. But I think there's a third reason. And I have the feeling that this is the primary reason. You're in love with Ridge, and you think this is your chance to win him away from Taylor. Once and for all.
I keep asking myself if I'm being unreasonable.
You aren't.
Well, I could go with him, James. That is a possibility.
For 6 weeks? Go away for 6 weeks or even more?
I could get someone to cover for me.
And what about your patients, Taylor? It's one thing for you to go away for a week or two, but to leave someone who's mentally ill without his doctor for 6 weeks
Well,
or
that's
more...
exactly why I don't want to go. But I can't get that through to Ridge.
Maybe I should talk to him.
Don't even suggest it.
Yes, I am suggesting it. He's not stupid. Someone should make him understand what he's putting you through. I mean, if he loves you, if he really loves you, he wouldn't get on that plane with Brooke when he knows it's going to devastate you.
He doesn't see it that way.
Well, someone should make him see it that way. You haven't. Maybe I can.
Thorne, wait. Are you absolutely convinced that the situation with Macy is as bad as you think?
Oh, it may even be worse. She just didn't fall out of love with me, Mother. There's another man, Anthony Armando. And you know what that means? It means that she is gone. I have lost her, Mother. And I don't have a chance of getting her back. And that is a thought that I am so totally unprepared for.
Mom, you should have seen the way Thorne looked at me when I didn't answer him.
Do you think he believes that you don't love him anymore?
Yeah, I think he believes that. And you want to know something? It's going to sound terrible. For just one moment, it felt good knowing that he was hurting the way I did when he left me.
All right, darling. But I still have to ask you that important question. Do you or don't you love him? Because ultimately, that's all that counts.
Yes. Yes, I still love him.
But, darling, I'm sure I don't have to waste any more words telling you how I feel about Thorne Forrester.
No, you don't.
And I think if you will look back on your time together, you will have to agree that he caused you more misery than joy.
Mother, that is not true.
All right, I don't want to argue. But I do have to ask you something. Why are you playing these games?
What games?
Letting Thorne think that you don't love him anymore when you do? Oh, honey, if you want him, go after him.
Mother, I wish it were that easy.
But it is that easy, Macy. When you love someone, it's that easy. You forget everything else. You forget your pride, and you make a commitment to build a life together. So what's it going to be, darling? I want you to tell me what you intend to do about your marriage.
I want to believe in Thorne. I want to believe in us. I want to start planning our future. I'm just so tired of all this fighting.
Well, it seems to me that Thorne is feeling the same way.
Yes, it does. He was so wonderful last night. He was so determined. It's as if we're finally in the same place. But, Mother, this leftover resentment, I just couldn't let it go.
Can you let it go now?
Yes. I already have.
So what are you doing hanging around here then, huh?
Thanks, Mom. I needed this talk.
I think you need to talk to Thorne. I think it's time you told him exactly how you feel. Oh, and while you're at it, tell him Sally Spector says she's going to give you 1 month to pull this marriage together. If it hasn't worked out by then, you will not only be leaving Thorne, you will be escaping Thorne. You tell him that for me, huh?
I will. Thanks. I'm going to go see somebody first, but then I'm going right over to talk to Thorne. I love you for this, you know?
What are you going to do about it?
I want to call her. I don't want to give up.
Well, then call her and don't give up.
And yet I've talked to her twice, Mother. I made a fool of myself the other night in front of Karen and Connor. And then last night, I almost begged her to come back to me. No, I can't do this. Oh, and then on the other hand, if I don't do something, I was counting on this marriage.
I know you were. It's kind of hard to say, but you know, the truth is you will survive it. You'll get through it. And you have your family.
I know, I've got to come up with a plan. I have to find a way of coping. If my marriage is truly over, and it's truly over, Mother, and I am kidding myself if I believe anything else. Macy is involved with Armando.
Well, don't think about him. And don't think of your life and your future. And if it's going to be without Macy, if that's the way it's going to be, then get on with your life. You know I'll support any decision that you make. I love you, honey. Why don't you take a trip? Why don't you do something like that. Go away for a while. Make a decision about where you want to go and go.
Get away. Where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do once I get there but think about Macy? No, I have to do something. I need a project. I need to be around friends. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yes! That's it! That is the answer.
Look, Karen, I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't love Rich. Of course I love him. But do I really want him if he's still in love with Taylor? No.
But he also loves you, Brooke. No matter how deep his feelings are for Taylor, one thing is for sure. His feelings for you are very deep, too.
Well, that isn't good enough.
Well, you say that, but do you really mean it?
Well, yes, of course I mean it. I don't want to take Ridge away from Taylor. Believe me, I've been tempted to. Especially since Taylor went off to Scotland with Dr. Warwick. But then if I won the battle, what then? Ridge isn't the kind of man that just gets swept away from his wife and feels good about it. He'd be miserable. We'd both be miserable. And then what would that do to my kids?
You're a stronger woman than I am, Brooke.
To be honest, I wish I didn't feel that way. To be able to take him into my arms and love him the way I've always wanted to. You know, I stay up late at night trying to convince myself that anything would be better than nothing. An affair, a casual night of sex. I mean, I get to the point where I'd even take the crumbs that fall off Taylor's table. Then I wake up in the morning and I realize I wouldn't be good for any of us. And I thank God that I made it through another night.
What happens when you're in Paris and you have one of those nights and Ridge's just across the hall in another room?
I try not to think about that.
Are you very successful?
Well, if I keep my focus on my children.
But can you really do that, Brooke? Look, I'm a firm believer that things work out the way we want them to, the way we intend them to. Now, Taylor met another man. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there's a reason, and the reason is you and Ridge. Now, I know you can't admit that because it would sound very self-serving, but I can because it's true. You and Ridge belong together, and your hearts will not rest until they're reunited. I think that's going to happen in Paris.
Don't say that, Karen.
Why not?
Because I might just start believing it. And I can't afford to do that. I love him too much.
Where is Ridge now?
You are not going to talk to him, James.
Just tell me where he is,
No.
please.
The last time the two of you got together, it got violent. I'm not letting that happen again.
Well, someone has to get it through his thick skull that he is hurting you.
Well, it is not going to be you. I am not giving up on Ridge. I mean, I have to believe that after all is said and done, and after Ridge thinks about this, he will know that he's making a mistake if he goes with Brooke to Europe. And he'll stay. I'm counting on that, James. I'm counting on it.
I pray to God you're not counting on it too much.
I pray to God I'm not either.
Look, I'm not trying to be negative. I hope everything works out exactly the way you want it to, but you have to be prepared for the other possibility. Look, just if, he decides to go to Europe with Brooke, I want you to call me right away. I don't want you spending the night alone after he leaves.
That is not going to happen.
No, of course it isn't. I'm speaking hypothetically. But
Ridge is not going to Paris. Now, please. I can't allow myself to think otherwise.
I hope for your sake you are right. But if you're not, I will be here for you. I will not allow that man to destroy you. I will be here at a moment's notice. Now, regardless of whether or not he goes to Europe, I want you to call me. I want to know.
Yes, Ridge. Sure, I'll be right over. Bye. He wants to talk to me. He's made his decision.